Hello and welcome to another one of Mr. Lang's vlogs. Today we're going to be talking about Reconstruction after the Civil War. This is a time where it's very sensitive in the United States, where the Civil War had just wrapped up. We just accepted half of our country back into the Union. But how are we going to rebuild? That's what we're going to look at today. So key questions we're going to be talking about: how do we bring the South back into the Union after we did just fight a war against it? How do we rebuild the South after its destruction after and during the war? How do we integrate and protect the newly emancipated black freedmen? These are African Americans that, again, have only known slavery their entire life, and now we have to bring them back into regular society. And what branch of government should control the process of Reconstruction? Is it the executive branch with the president? Is it the legislative branch with the Congress? We're going to have to dive into that and find out. But wartime Reconstruction is first. Check this out. Again, the state of the South was in shambles. You would think that was from World War II. It looked so bad, but it absolutely wasn't. No, it wasn't bombs, wasn't anything. It's literally cannonballs that have done this horrible damage. As well as you're going to find that African Americans are going to find menial jobs. They're going to find jobs that pay, but not very well, including grave digging. They're going to be misplaced. Their house will be gone, villages. And we're going to start to rebuild. The United States is going to provide funds to allow the South to once again rise and be rebuilt. Now, the Confederate money wasn't exactly worth much of anything at this point either. And most African American women went towards traditional jobs, such as housemaids, nannies, things of that sort. And the poverty that was absolutely intense. Now, many African Americans kept with the slave life, again, being paid very little bit, or in some cases sharecropping, which we're going to get into, but still kept on growing and crops and so on. Now, questions we're going to go over is how do you rebuild the South after the Civil War? How do you readmit these Confederate states into the Union? President Lincoln said, "I have a 10% plan and it should work." He's basically going to go ahead and replace the majority rules of different states with loyal rule, people who are loyal to the Union. This will make sure that no more insightful rebellions occur. And when he does this in, they call it the Lincoln governments. He does it in Louisiana, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And again, they're labeled loyal assemblies. They're weak though. It's really the northern armies that help protect them, because they are very weak. Now, the Wade-Davis bill comes about, and it basically says anybody who voted in the 1860 election needs to have an ironclad oath that they did not aid the rebellion voluntarily. Again, Congressman Henry Davis and Senator Benjamin Wade came up with this bill in 1864. They submitted it to Lincoln, and Lincoln pocket vetoed it. That's right, he took it, stuck it in his pocket, said I want nothing to do with it. And it doesn't get passed. Just like a coupon, it expired. Now, meanwhile, Jefferson Davis is under arrest, and he does serve his time in prison. Again, he was the CSA, the Confederate States of America, president. Now, during this time, we also get the 13th Amendment that finally is ratified in December of 1865, saying that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment of crime wherever the party shall have been dully convicted, shall exist within the U.S. and its jurisdictions. Basically, slavery is now illegal. There's absolutely no way that the South can enslave African Americans, because again, it is an amendment now. Now, the Freedmen's Bureau comes about, and the Freedmen's Bureau is very, very interesting because you're going to have many former Northern abolitionists risk their lives to come down to the South and help out these newly freed men, these new free African Americans. They're going to be called carpetbaggers because they're literally going to have these gigantic sacks over their shoulder as they're coming down from the north to the south holding all of their stuff. So that was a nickname that the Southerners gave them. They were not at all, the Southerners, not at all like the carpetbaggers. But the Freedmen's Bureau helped give that need for food and shelter for freed slaves, helped settle many plantation lands. In fact, the task of feeding and clothing former slaves is something that they did prevalently. And they find work for them. They help negotiate labor contracts, make sure they weren't being racist against, and getting paid very, 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 very little. And again, they began the education process. The education process had to start from square one, reading and writing. Now, Freedmen's Bureau in the South side wasn't exactly great. In fact, many political cartoons made fun of it, including this one here. It says, "Plenty to eat, nothing to do." It says, strumming on a banjo, sitting on some corn. Again, was this really how it was? No, but this is how the Southerners thought that it was, and spread the word that way. Propaganda. Now, real Freedmen's Bureau, their school did have very similar things like this here, where you have secondhand desks, secondhand textbooks, things of that nature. Again, they didn't have a lot of money. Most volunteers were just that, volunteers, and didn't get paid. But again, they did it for the greater cause. Now, during this time, unfortunately, 6 days after the war, we do have President Lincoln's assassination. John Wilkes Booth, a very, very, very famous Shakespearean actor, takes out his snub nose and shoots Lincoln right in the back of the head. And even though he's a famous actor, he still is a Southern sympathizer, meaning he really sympathized with the South and thought that Lincoln had done the South wrong. And so when he does, he jumps from the balcony, breaks his ankle, and says, "Sic semper tyrannis," meaning, "Thus always to tyrants." Again, Latin, and also from the play Caesar. Now, he comes from a very, very big Shakespearean acting family. In fact, his brother was a huge one. His father was a huge actor as well. He was very famous. So people wonder, why did he do this? Well, Booth killed him over voting rights. Again, Booth was a Southern sympathizer, didn't want to, by any means, to have African Americans have voting rights. And he thought that Lincoln was acting like a dictator. So unfortunately, he does assassinate him. And we lose a great leader and do gain Andrew Johnson. President Andrew Johnson, unfortunately, is a white supremacist. He wasn't a fan of African Americans gaining equality, not as big as Lincoln, but he also was a Democrat versus Lincoln being a Republican. They were very opposite in certain ways. But Johnson puts forth his 10% plan and basically says any new constitutions, they must accept minimum conditions repudiating any type of slavery, secession, and state debts. Meaning that any new constitutions only had a little minimum thing that they had to write in order to fulfill to become a state constitution again. Republicans were outraged because you're going to have these plantation owners back in power. And is slavery dead? It's hard to say at this point. And the North starts growing with alarm with the Black Codes. Black Codes is to regulate civil and legal rights from marriage to the right to hold and sell property for African Americans. It is one of those things where they wanted to get the African Americans were looking to get equal rights, and they were getting it. Now, the purpose was to guarantee stable labor supply now that blacks were emancipated and restore pre-emancipation system of race relations. This actually forced many blacks to become what we call sharecroppers or tenant farmers, where they're going to go ahead, well actually we'll get into that in a minute. But Congress breaks with the president. Believe it or not, Andrew Johnson takes the Freedmen's Bureau, the bill, to renew it, and he vetoes it. He doesn't want the Freedmen's Bureau anymore. This does outrage a lot of people, especially abolitionists. And what ends up happening is we get the 14th Amendment. Again, 14th Amendment basically is going to go ahead and, well, that's wrong, provide a constitutional guarantee of rights and security of free people to make sure these free people had the right of the Constitution. And again, Southern states would be punished for denying the right to vote to black citizens. Now, the balance of power in Congress, as you can see, is overwhelming. Let's do it. So, as these Reconstruction continues, we have these Reconstruction Acts of 1867, and one of them is the Tenure of Office Act. And the president could not remove any officials, especially cabinet members, without the Senate's consent. This was huge. They were targeting Johnson. Johnson wasn't very well liked by the cabinet or Congress. What ends up happening? Johnson removes Edwin Stanton. When that happens, he's one of the cabinet members, so of course the House impeaches him before even drawing up charges. So the Senate trial goes on. It's an 11-week trial, and Johnson gets acquitted of 35 to 19 Again, he does get acquitted. It wasn't that close. Now, sharecropping. This is big. As you can see, sharecropping went across the entire nation. And what sharecropping is a new system for agriculture. Tenant farmers paid rent with a share of their crops. They would grow these crops on somebody else's land, and they would give the owner of the land part of the money from the crops, or get a share of some of the crops. Now you had landlords, those are landowners who controlled sharecroppers. Crop leanings, those are the crops taken to cover debts. And sharecropping became trapped. Sharecroppers became trapped because farmers could not pay their debts. So the 15th Amendment comes by, and again, gives the right of citizens to the United States to vote shall not be denied, abridged on the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude, meaning now African Americans do have the right to vote. And now that they have the right to vote, it's slowly the southern states held elections in which freedmen got to vote. However, there are going to be people against this, and the people are the Southern resistance. These are going to be your Republicans as well as your Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, led by Nathan Bedford Forrest. These are mostly former Confederate soldiers, and the goals of them were to drive out the carpetbaggers coming down to help out the freedmen and regain the control of the South. Now, the tactics were to break up Republican meetings, harass Freedmen Bureau workers, burn homes, churches, schools. These kept Republicans from voting. The Ku Klux Klan Act does get passed and outlaw the activities of the Klan, but they do continue in secret. And southern states create laws to segregate public spaces called the Jim Crow laws, meaning you would have a separate bathroom for African Americans and a separate bathroom for whites, for example, or a separate restaurant for African Americans and a separate restaurant for whites. And that's how it continues on, this type of discrimination, all the way till we get to the civil rights era in the 1950s. That's all I have for you today. I will see you in class.